And I'm waiting for some of you because I want to talk to you. Talk to you. Talk to you. Wait for you guys to join us here. Oh, hey, sister. Hey, Val. And Steph should be popping up any moment. Here we go. Yes. Is she coming? I have okayed her invitation multiple times or accepted okayed. I have accepted. Hey, hey, big sis. What's up, sister? How are you feeling?
Hello.
There she is.
Hello.
And there she goes.
Hello, guys.
Hello, guys. Val is here. Say hi to
Hey,
Val.
hey, Valeria. Hey,
Valeria.
Valeria.
Valeria. How are you doing, sis?
How are you?
I was talking to you, Stephanie.
Oh, I'm doing okay.
What? All right, you're giving me Edna mode. Your camera seems a little high. Your camera's in a little blur, but we're gonna rock with it. We're gonna rock with it. Thank you guys so much for joining us here in Church Girls Chronicles. So far we have our sister Valerie, and so we're looking forward to all of you joining us when you and spending about an hour and a half of your Thursday with us. Not quite an hour and a half, but we thank you for every moment that you do spend with us. And when
Join
we
as the
get in
spirit
here,
leads.
hi Barry,
Hey,
Terrell, Beecham.
Terrell. That's my friend, son. That my friend Michelle, Dominique's brother.
Oh, okay.
Terrell.
Hi. Thank you for
Hi,
joining us here this
Terrell. How
evening,
are
sir,
you?
Dominique's brother.
Hi,
So,
Terrell.
so very nice of you to spend some
Yeah.
time with us.
Very good of you to
I'm
do so.
excited to see you here. So we are talking again this week. We started a topic last week that got an arousal. People were like, they were
They were.
excited. Hey, Mimi, homemade desserts. Hi, how are you? Thanks for joining us. And the topic that we had last week was the whole I'm spiritual. I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. They have not an acronym. They have what are they called? The SBNR, spiritual but not religious group of people. Honey, they got a Wikipedia page and everything.
It is
Um,
really interesting. It's very big deal stuff.
It is. It is. It's a whole, it's almost as if it's its own separate religious group
It has become very much that.
without them being
Yeah,
religious.
it has really become that. And I'll just be cracking up like, oh, this is what we doing?
That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. We did have a couple folks on last week that said that they say that they're Christians, they believe in Jesus Christ, but they're very one young lady, I believe her name was Nicole, she
Yeah.
was adamant about how yes, I am very much spiritual but not religious when I speak to people type of thing. And we talked a little bit about why we thought the reasons where people did that,
Yeah.
why they said that. Were they saying it to deflect and they didn't want to have a conversation and offer any type of explanation for the hope that they have in Jesus Christ? Did they not want to be, looked at differently? Like, what was the reason behind it? We talked about that a little bit.
Yeah.
We kind of left off with talking about folks who, the I love Jesus but I don't love church group.
Right. And we did that. I think that's where we kind of left our talking. I love Jesus, but we don't love church. And which would bring us to like another thing that we had kind of discussed a little bit about with the whole idea of the great like kind of a falling away
Right.
from church in general. Is that now just the answer so that people are made aware that you don't go to church anymore? Like I don't do church, like, so because I don't do church, I'm spiritual, not religious. And
Mm-hmm.
so has the uptick also, can we blame the uptick of the whole SNR thing on the large falling away, we see a generation of people who generally were big time church goers, like were brought up and raised in the church all their lives. This uptick of SNR happening.
SBNR?
I mean, SBNR, as a result of that group of people falling away from the church
Yeah.
and still wanting to identify themselves as lovers of God.
Yeah. And I think too, we spoke, not really in any detail. We talked a little bit about why we felt people were doing that. You know, we give church hurt air quotes, a lot of them, it's a lot of quotes.
Yeah.
Because it deserves it, right? Because
Right.
Jesus didn't hurt you, God didn't hurt you, the church didn't hurt you. Maybe somebody at the church hurt your feelings or something,
Mm-hmm.
but the church doesn't hurt you, right? So you know the reasons why that falling away happens, and then too, I thought it was interesting that if you have those people who are in that falling away group, but
Yeah.
they're very it's SBNR, spiritual but not
It's
religious.
SBNR, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So hey Talisha, hey Sandra, thanks for jumping on. But that whole falling away group, it's interesting to me how they still want like some connectivity.
Right.
But they're also okay with not being but so connected.
Right.
You know, so it's almost like what is that? Where you can kind of pick and choose what you want.
Yeah, it's like
It's like
it's cherry picking when it comes down to like what you want to identify with. And I mean, I get it because I think for some people too, it's the revelation of certain things that they've come to know. Um, like when I watch people like I won't call names, but there's one particular content creator who, well, who's very connected to the church, but grew up in a dogmatic religious sect of Christianity or dogmatic religious discipline, deeply Pentecostal, and had some epiphany outside his Pentecostal experience about a lot of the things that they were told to do, that they had to do in order for them to be saved. And for him, like when you hear him talk about it, you don't hear a bitterness about it, but I think a lot of the teasing and all the things and the jeering and all the things are done because that very dogmatic lifestyle, very religious lifestyle that they were forced to live, coming to understand that it wasn't necessary in their adulthood. And now it's like this whole thing, like, I don't want to be connected to that in any way. And this is how I distance myself from that while still trying to honor a spiritual life. But they do it all the time. Like you see that happen a lot of times too when you're dealing with people who come out of deeply dogmatic, strict religious experiences. They have this, epiphany in their adulthood, or this moment where they're like, it didn't take all of that, and that we were in some way oppressed. And now they're free from that oppression, and their mind is free from all of that stuff that oppressed them during them 20, 30 years of their lifetime. And it's like, how do I still say that I love God, but not align myself with all that oppression that I was a part of?
Right. And I hear you when you say oppression, and I get what you mean when you say oppression. And I think, our forefathers and founding members of churches, and especially in the Black church, I don't think they were able to really articulate what it was they were trying to get us towards, and that was being bearers of the fruits of the Spirit. And I think as some folks have gotten older, some of them fruits they don't want to grow. So because they don't want to grow some of those fruits, they're like, oh, I'm oppressed and I was this and I was that. And it doesn't take all that. And no, it may not take all of the tactics that we use to get you to that point where your fruits were showing. We may not need it to tarry all night. That might have been a little excessive, maybe for some people. And a lot of the things that they pushed upon us under certain doctrines did not at all produce those fruits.
Right.
But does that mean then now that they're not necessary? Because I think I know who you're talking about, and um like just chose a whole other lifestyle.
Right. I mean, not just that, just choosing. I think there's a difference between dogma and even, and it goes back to throwing the baby out with the bathwater, right?
Right.
I think the purpose of living is to grow and to learn and to unlearn, right? It's no life that is happening that's not happening in your lifetime. And I think when it comes down to, and I specifically say our experience in the Black church in particular, when it comes down to those kinds of things, I think that there's such a deep history and reason why,
Mm-hmm.
like, so when
Mm-hmm.
perfect example, when I talk to my friends about dressing, and it's just, this whole negative thing about, oh, Black people only go to church to get all dressed up, and it becomes a fashion show and blah blah blah, and the negative connotation to that part, like, there are certain churches that are known for, you can't roll up in there and not be dressed right to the nines and have on the right outfits and be together. And and so then the connotation over the years has become, or what's communicated oftentimes about that, about the church, the Black churches, that's where they go. It's now a fashion show. You don't need to wear all of. But my mind goes back to, like, the stories that mommy told us, like, about the fact that when you have 3 sets of clothes, the clothes that you went and you worked in the field with, the one outfit you got that was a hand-me-down that you wore to school.
Yeah.
The only thing that most of the time was new, and that your mama took time to make and dress you up in, was what you wore to church.
Yeah.
And for her, it was, I never, she will forget. My mama taught me that when we go to church on Sunday, we give God our best. So I'm not going to put on my overalls that I work in, that I till the fields in as sharecroppers' kids. And I'm not going to put on my school clothes, because that's not my best. That could be a hand-me-downs from somebody else. I'm going to put on a dress that mommy made for me. And the one pair of patent leather shoes that we have kept clean and only worn one time during the week. Mm-hmm. Because I want to give God, that's her and us giving God our best. Mm-hmm. So what we've turned into this negative thing over time and connected to our religious experience didn't start out that way. No, it really was a way that they chose as to honor God.
And I think 90% of the things that we do at church started out that way. It started out as us, wanting to honor God in some way, and then over time it became
something else.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But it's insane to me how the something else, like we forget, especially as a people, we so often forget that where it started and the intention was never that. Mm-mm. And that there was a reason for it, and we're not just out here being superficial and shallow.
Right.
But there is a history behind that for us as a people that has become very culturally ingrained in our religious practice.
And we haven't separated the two, though, I think, over time. I think we've allowed it to become, like we were just saying, the dictators, or the rules that we follow that, separated denominations. Oh, y'all are allowed to wear pants. Oh, we're not. Y'all want to, and those types of things became what separated us instead of the things that brought us together, which originally they were for.
Right.
The things that would bring us together, because it wasn't all that denomination stuff back in the day. If you had a little church somewhere in the country, that's where everybody went. Mm-hmm. It wasn't all that separation of churches and denominations and Kojics and Pentecostals and evangelicals and Baptist, First Baptist, Primitive Baptist, Second Baptist, AME. None of that existed. But over time, those are the types of things that split the church.
And we start, and more than just splitting us, became, I think, negative stains on our religious experience. And then those are the things that get magnified and demonizing, things that have become demonizing when I'm looking at it and I need a reason to part from the the religious experience. Does it have anything to do with scripture? Not technically. At this point, it does not. But 50, 60 years ago, when my mom was a kid, that was how it was a part of their worship.
Yeah.
Because for them, it was giving God their best. And so, like, when you think about it contextually, and as time has moved forward and matured, time has, gone on, these are the things that you have to be careful about when you're scrutinizing this idea of religion.
Yeah.
And you're looking at it, and and when you're, especially when you're scrutinizing it and trying to find something wrong with it, it really is understanding it at a deeper level.
Yeah.
And knowing, and being really, really honest with yourself about what, where, when, how, and the reasons why and what the intentions were in the first place. And so I think that is a big, big key part to what happens. And then we didn't throw out, like I said, the baby with the bathwater, because we don't want to hold on to anything traditional.
No.
Which I also think is a big downfall for the Black church, that there's a lot of traditional things that are not bad.
Correct.
And that, and that we aren't necessary to do away with, and may not have anything directly to do with my discipling walk, with discipleship in my walk, but are important as a cultural foundation for me as an American Black person in this country, to be able to say that this was the walk that brought my the ancestors through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that same walk gonna keep me if I want to live it out right. So I think that's where I kind of part ways with some of it sometimes. Like, I don't think we always are real. I don't know. It's gotten very convoluted.
Oh yeah, for sure. Over the years, it definitely has. I mean, look at how many denominations we have. We have all those separate denominations because of all of the convoluting.
Yeah.
And splitting and arguments over the smallest things that God is not concerned about at all.
Right.
And that is what has happened. That's exactly what's happened. And now you have that whole group of people, because first it started with the whole non-denominational thing. Oh, I'm non-denominational. Okay, that's great. But you still in here doing a lot of ritualistic things, and you know what I mean? And then, like you said, a lot of them took that non-denominational thing too far and threw the baby out with the bathwater. Ain't thinking about Jesus, God, or nothing. Y'all just in here doing whatever.
Right.
And then you got the folks who totally have stepped away, and now they're the SBNRs. I'm spiritual but not religious, because even with the non-denominational, there's still too many constraints on me and what I can do.
And I think that there's a difference. I think that there's a set of people that use it as the excuse to be able to do what they want to do. Like, it just, to justify, I have a relationship with God while I do what I want. I also believe that there are those who legitimately feel as if their experience in the institution of church has not been a positive one, and they want to be able to make the mark and say, I am very spiritually connected to who God is and what God desires in my life, but I have no desire to be connected to the institutional stuff that happens with church.
Yeah, and
or with organized religion.
I feel like
that, not just
there are fewer of them, and I think what happens with that group though is that that's the group who usually doesn't go to church, because they have a hard time finding a church home.
And I want to say organized. I want to say organized religion, not just church, because we want to be clear that this is not just something that is happening with the Christian church. Like, this is something that's happening, this falling away of, from all of it, like Islam,
all the religions,
yes, Judaism, all of them, like, and they're moving more towards a all-encompassing or a mixture of a new agey, all-encompassing kind of process and belief systems. And when people are moving in that direction, that's when you start to lose me. Like I said, it's really it's compartmentalizing as well, and not, even in our attempt to do something different, right, there's still divisiveness, because the SBN, all SBNRs are not the same. They're just not.
Right. Correct. They're not the same.
They're not the same.
And I think too, even with I think the younger generation, like you said, because it's not just Christianity. There's a young lady on my job that I mentioned last week, um, who is very adamant about not being a part of her, the religion that her family grew up with, and she's Middle Eastern, so it's just I wonder because like that I don't know the generations. I don't know the Z's from the X's and the R's and the whoever. I don't know. But they also have this whole. They're also that generation of people who just I don't want nobody to tell me nothing about nothing.
Yeah.
Because I know everything I need to know. I know everything I need to know about me. I know more than you know, and there's nothing you can teach me, group of people. And that I can't really put my finger on an age group, but there's a group of folks who are just in that whole. You
Well, I
can't
think
tell
folks
me.
in general, I mean, I definitely think it's a generational thing, but I think people in general have started to fall into that. One, because scripture says that they
Yeah,
would. Two, because of information being so free
yeah, we have
and
access
easily
to information
accessible.
we were never meant to kind of
Yeah,
intellectual like
and
we.
knowing, yeah, having all kinds of information is probably not always the best thing because
Mm-mm.
you can support anything, support any
Yeah,
argument. And
yep,
you could support the argument that the sky is really not blue if
you
you
really
do enough
could.
research.
And the Earth is
Like
flat.
or that the earth is flat, or that
Mm-hmm.
if you do enough research, there are arguments that can support everything, and nothing is very evidentiary
No,
anymore because you can
no,
create it and make it be whatever you want it to be now, especially now when you got AI. You can put faces on dogs and
man.
tails on people and all kinds like
Anything,
it just you
anything
can make
goes,
whatever you want out of anything, out of whatever you want.
and that's. I, but I wonder, like, what state of do you think there's a coming back from that? That whole just I'm just not gonna do nothing y'all say type of mentality, and because they're really hard to reason with. Like I said, they think they know everything. They don't want to hear anything. They think we don't know anything. We have no idea about anything in life because we're older.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they just are out here doing, and they use the spiritual but not religious term a lot, but they're not really practicing anything personally when it comes to like a connection
Oh,
or
that's not happening, right?
being
Yeah.
connected.
Oh, it's this whole, like I said, there, even within the SBNR community, there are so many different layers to all of that, right? So are you SBNR because you are um in some way still connected to your traditional beliefs, but just don't want to engage in a community experience with that any
Right.
longer because of things that have happened in the community experience? Is it because you completely disconnected from your beliefs because you decided that it's just not viable information anymore? Is it the bombarding of so much information that you don't know what to believe? And so
Right.
now you're just out here tasting and seeing all the
Right.
things, right?
Right.
Right?
Right. Right.
Like there are those you could, honey. I have people that I know personally that fall in all the categories. Of,
Really?
oh yes,
One
of SBNRs that I just
person?
mentioned. Well, I can tell you one person that I know and can call by first name that fall in each one of them categories.
Break it down for me. What you mean?
Like I know a person that is just, I think it's essentially just got so overwhelmed with so much information. Like I've come into the knowledge of too much. So this is what I've decided. I'm gonna take a little bit from here, a little bit from there, a little bit from there, a
Oh,
little bit from here, and I'm gonna be all the things. I know,
not
you
all the
know,
things.
I know a person like that. I know a person who is, you know, spiritual but not religious because I don't want to keep all the commandments and I don't want to do other things that I want to,
Oh,
and I kind of want to
yeah.
do what I want to do. So this SBNR thing is kind of giving me the freedom to do that. And then
Mm-hmm.
I can say, Jesus just loves me. God just loves us
Yeah,
all,
he does
And then I
though.
know some SBNRers who are straight out here testing a whole new situation out. Like, I don't want to do that anymore over there because I'm going to do this over
Mm-hmm.
here because, I'm going to do meditation. That's, I'm going to do some, tarot card reading. I'm gonna do all the things, and then I'm still say that I'm a Christian. And like and so I know some of all the I know some that are just SBNRers because they were once in the church and they just don't want to
Stop
be
saying
affiliated.
R like that.
Rers,
SBNRers.
I know some people who are at SBNR that just really just don't want to be a part of the church anymore. And though they have relationships with the Lord, have no desire to be in a community experience at all with church people.
Yeah.
But have a full-fledged life with the Lord, live holy, want to do the right thing, have a desire to please God, but have no desire to do it in the community of other believers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, SBNR that joined, for those of you that joined
Yeah, I
today.
think my thing is explain SBNR for those that just joined. Hi, James White. Thank you for joining. And hi, Mario.
Hey, Mario.
SBNR is spiritual but not religious. That was our topic that we started last week. Hey, Billy. And we're talking about it a little bit more this week because we kind of have more to say about it.
Mario,
So
I'll be
SBNR,
interested in what you think about it. Where are you?
it's a monochrome. No, not monochrome. It's not a Lord Jesus, it's not an acronym. It's
It's
SBNR.
it's the things that it's not emojis and it is acronyms, emojis and
An
acronyms. How people
acronym
talk now.
should spell a word.
Yeah,
That's why it's
should
not
not
an acronym.
emojis. And what's it called when they got all the initials mean
I
something? What's it called?
forget what that's
Because
called.
I
Someone
be reading them
help us
all
with
out when
that.
they
When
be doing the
all,
whole
yeah, each
sentences and
one is
phrases.
that an acronym or does an acronym have to spell a word? Either
I thought an
way,
acronym had to spell a. Does an acronym spell a word?
SBNR, spiritual but not religious. We found out a few weeks ago that they have their own Wikipedia page.
They have a
It's like a
Wikipedia
whole thing.
page. They have
It's
a
like it's
page,
almost
a
as if
group.
it's its
They
own
have groups.
religion, and they're all in this melting pot
It,
acronym.
it's an
So
acronym. Okay.
SBNR is an acronym, Mr. White. That's what you're saying. Okay.
It's an acronym.
So
Yep, spiritual but not religious.
it's an acronym. Uh, but yes, that's what it stands for. SBNR, spiritual but not religious. And how do you identify? Do you identify as someone who is spiritual but not religious? For those who were not here last week, Billy, you told us how you felt last week. James, you identified. Okay, so explain that. Spiritual but not religious. Why? Why are you spiritual
And
but not
I'm happy
religious?
that Mario jumped up because I would love to hear what he would have to share about that, about the spiritual but not religious piece. Coming from someone who pastored, and I understand because I'm no longer pastoring and ain't got no desire to do it ever again.
There's that.
you know, but I don't know what that's about. I mean, not in the context of what used to be. Right, I have no desire to do it in the context of a pulpit and a congregation that comes out Sunday at 11 and Wednesday at 7.
Nobody does service at 11 no more.
And
Do they?
Friday nights, prayer meeting. I don't have any desire to do it in that context ever again. But I feel like I'm fulfilling the call, just in a different context, in a way.
Yeah.
Does that qualify me, right? Does that make me someone who followed the spiritual but not religious path?
No.
Because the religious thinkers would say that this is what pastoring looks like, right? And it's in this particular box, and it requires these particular things.
That's what you're saying.
You understand? So that's the very religious perspective of it. The fact that I'm somewhere in the whole left field over here with the feeling like I had to listen. I'm pastor all the time, okay? With no formal congregation, no building, but listen to me. This is what I do every single day of my life.
Right.
And I'm not just talking about on my job. I feel, I'm talking about in my personal life. This is what I do. And I feel, very much connected to that experience without all the brouhaha that people expected to be doing. You know what I'm saying?
Did you go? The brouhaha. But I think for me, it has all become just so like we have put ourselves in it so much. The way the church runs now is not anything like what Jesus told the disciples to do. It's nothing the way, it's not what the Lord intended.
Right.
And poor little Ty Tribbett, he almost got his head chopped off for saying that right now, the church as it stands right now in its current
Yeah, I was going to acknowledge.
okay, I'm reading.
Yeah, it's a thing, sis. It's a thing.
You know what I mean? I don't, it's not at all like, so I guess it's hard. I guess technically I'm also an SBNR if you were to put it in that context. Because I mean, the way the church gets down right now, I'm at large, the church at large, right? The
Right.
way it gets down right now, I'm like, I'm good. Billy was saying, I feel like being spiritual is a personal walk with God, and being religious is just following tradition. It can be. It can be. Talisha said, I didn't know this is a thing with the name. It is a thing. It's a thing with a name, sis. It's got a name. And if you put SBNR in a Google search, it's going to come up with a whole bunch of stuff. She says she's not in the group. But yeah, and it is being spirit. It is a personal walk with God when it comes to your personal growth. But every Christian is supposed to be telling other people about God. So it's personal in that your growth is personal, sure. And God ain't gonna ask nobody but you about you, right? He not gonna ask me about Steph. He ain't gonna ask Steph about me. He gonna ask me about me and what I did and what I didn't do. But one thing we all should be doing, as what did Val say? Baptize believers in the resurrected Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Val? Did I get it right? We should all be telling someone else about that resurrected Christ, right? So if we don't do anything else as a believer, I don't have to discuss the details of my spiritual walk. Thanks, sis. Thank you. I don't have to discuss the details of my spiritual walk with you, but I am obligated to introduce you to Jesus some way, whether that's in how I live my life, whether that's over the pulpit, whether that's, I pull you to the side and give you a personal witness type of thing. There are so many different ways to do that. And we had started to talk about that a little bit last week. What does that look like? Like, is it just one way to fulfill the Great Commission? Because sometimes you mentioned, Steph, you're in an atmosphere where talking about God you might lose your job. You can't just go in there and talk about Jesus is the way. They'd be like, and that's the way out.
And here's your severed space.
And this pink slip is your way out.